So hello, my name is Lucky and welcome to my channel. So today I wanted to talk about something that has been weighing very heavily on my heart, and that is sharing how my first semester of medical school actually went. So right now it is super hard for me to believe this, but it is true. I have actually finished my first semester of medical school. So we started school in, I want to say July, and our first semester ended December 20th. And so it has literally been just about 6 months, and we have completed our first semester of medical school. So to be really honest, this whole semester I had filmed stuff and I had planned to do certain things, but in all honesty, I couldn't do it. And it's not that I couldn't, it's that I just literally, this first semester was such a huge adjustment for me that I didn't know I had to figure out so much. Like, I had to figure out how to adjust to medical school, which is what I'm going to be talking about very soon. So if I had to think of one word to describe my first semester of medical school thus far, the only word that I could come up with is hard. Surprisingly for me personally, it was difficult in ways that I did not expect it to be difficult. So now that I'm in my second semester, I kind of reassessed everything, and I really want to document this process on my YouTube channel. And I want to document it in a way that is very honest and real. Because in all honesty, I think that as a society, we tend to really focus on the positive attributes of pursuing a medical profession. We really focus on the end goal, on getting there. Oh my God, you did it. You're so strong. You're so smart. You're so this. You're so that. And I don't think we really realize how hard these professions actually are and the toll that it can take on the individual. And for me, this literally, I can only think of one other situation in life that has been more gut-wrenchingly hard than this. This has been one of the most difficult things I have ever done in my life. It was difficult in ways in which I didn't expect. And for me, the hardest thing about medical school thus far this semester has been my mental health and adjusting to school. My mental health has deteriorated. I came into medical school and I knew I did not have very good coping mechanisms with stress. So things that I kind of harbored inside, like thoughts and ideologies about myself. And I'm a first generation college student. I didn't come from any kind of financial stability, an array of things. I'm a girl from Detroit. I lived in the city all my life, and I was, raised in a single parent household. A lot of the thoughts and feelings and emotions that I've harbored inside of me and kind of used to, what could I say, identify myself, in my own personal self-identity, and things that I never really addressed before medical school, everything came up. So that is really one of the things that happened to me in medical school. Any issues that I had kind of like lingering underneath the surface, it all came up. Everything came up. Like I said, I did have heart palpitations all throughout the school year. I would literally be sitting and I would just feel my heart just start beating uncontrollably. And it got to be too much for me, honestly, and I knew that I had to get help. So one of the amazing things that our medical school does is they did a wonderful job of letting us know what resources are available to us. We had to go to like seminars, kind of like lectures that just talks about mental health, and like if you're feeling this way, it's not abnormal. They really did a great job of kind of creating that dialogue and letting us know what to do. So when it got to be too much for me, and when I realized that I could not handle it, and another thing, like, even though you're in medical school, life still happens, of course. Life does not stop just because you're in medical school, and life plus the stress of medical school plus how you're dealing with medical school, or in my case, how I was dealing with medical school, it got to be too much. And so what our school told us during one of those wonderful seminar slash lectures that we had was, if you need help, go to your class counselor. So that's what I did. I actually went to our class counselor. I said, this is what's going on with me. I'm having these issues and I need help. And she gave me a huge list of resources. She worked with me not only like in regards to my own personal finances, but if I had any travel issues or like limitations, pretty much everything. She looked at all aspects that I think needed to be addressed in finding a healthcare provider who could provide me with the mental health assistance that I needed. And so from the list that I received, I actually found a practitioner. I absolutely love the practitioner that I'm going to right now. I found a practitioner who looks like me and who comes from a background similar to my own, so I don't feel ashamed or any kind of odd way about talking about how things are in my own situation. And it's wonderful having a provider who has been there and who, like I said, because my provider comes from a background similar to my own, I can share those things and not feel any kind of uncomfortable way. So I really do honestly wish that I would have went to therapy before medical school. I did not know that medical school would affect me in the ways that it did. And it affected all aspects of my life. During my first semester, honestly, I became very just, I was a mess. I was a mess. It was a mess. I just became a hot mess. And it, like I said, everything was too much. And the stress just infiltrated every aspect of life that it possibly could. So another thing that I would definitely say is that what also made adjusting to medical school really hard for me was that I did not come into this situation with the most opened of mind. And now that I'm able to sit back and assess what happened or assess the semester, you know, I think I'm a big enough person to say, I made mistakes, I did this wrong. Okay, so what can I learn from those mistakes? Yeah, I did not come into this with a very open mind. Prior to medical school, I was very set in my ways. And when I was in grad school, I had literally gotten grad school, in my opinion, in my situation, to a science. I knew what to do to get the results that I wanted to do. And in medical school, I couldn't do that. I didn't have the time to do the things that I did in grad school. In grad school, in regards to like studying, I would, what I used to do in grad school is I would record lectures if they were not recorded. I had an audio recorder because I was a journalism major in undergrad. I would record the audio, ask the professor, could I record them? I would go to lecture, and during the lecture, that's when I would do the recording. Then I would go home and I would re-watch that lecture or re-listen to that lecture maybe a week or two later. And it was because I had the time. I was only taking a few classes. I only went to class maybe like 2, at the utmost 3 times a week, you know? And I would say like I didn't go to class every single day of the week. So I had the luxury of being able to stretch out my time, and I didn't have to study every day. I would just study before the exam. I would give myself like 2 weeks before the exam. I would go over everything I needed to go over, and that was it. I didn't quite mention, while listening to the lectures, I would make notes. So I would type up my own lecture notes, and I would pretty much verbatim type what the professor says, and that would be how I would study. And if I needed to, most of the time I would remember. I would listen to the lecture once when I would sit in lecture, and then when I would come back home and re-listen to the lecture and take notes, that was another pass. And me typing that out, I consider that to be another pass. So very rarely I would actually print out my notes that I created and then use those as like study guides for the exam. And I couldn't do that in medical school because the amount of information that you receive and the amount of lectures, on average, we have, like, I know it doesn't sound like much, but we would have like 2 to 3 lectures a day. And that doesn't sound like a lot, but if you take that, I feel like, you know, each lecture, most of the days we have around 3 lectures. Sometimes, rarely, we might have 2, and then sometimes we might even have 4. And then sometimes most lectures are like an hour long, but then there are other times where the lectures might be 2 hours long or an hour and a half long. And so probably every week we get like 15 lectures. And so compare that 15 to like maybe the 2 or like at the utmost I would get like 5 in grad school, you know, and now I'm tripling that amount. And not only do you get all of these lectures, but it's a lot. It's the content is, most of the time the content is not that difficult to understand. What's a challenge is you have to synthesize and you have to commit that stuff to memory, you know? Coming from having everything down to a science and then having that whole like scientific kind of method that you created like shook up, and realizing that it doesn't work, that was something that really kind of shook me a little bit, and I didn't know what to do, and I had to, you know, I'm still figuring that out academically. But more so, like I said, I just didn't come in here with a very open mind, and I regret that. Coming in and kind of being somewhat of a sponge, or being a very just being open to things, is something that I think is very essential, especially as a first-year medical student. And I would also say, if the thought of, maybe I should get professional help comes across your mind, I think that is the utmost sign that you should get it. I think I've never been to therapy prior to medical school, and I wish I would have gone to therapy much sooner in life. There's nothing wrong with getting help, you know, really, in my opinion. Going through this bout has actually made me more interested in mental health, so we'll see where that goes. I feel like the first year of medical school can affect people in different ways. It's just a very individualized thing. I'm just sharing my experience, and just because I experience one thing definitely does not mean that anyone else will. And that's why I wanted to share my experience, because I feel like I mentioned, you know, I don't think a lot of people talk about the aspects that aren't so great about medical school. And like I said, this has been hard, but I don't think I'm emphasizing. It's been very difficult, and it's been hard to the point of this being the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And if there's anyone out there who has felt remotely like me, I just want to share it, because I feel like, you know, sometimes you can feel, I think, so alone and feel like, oh, I'm the only one who's feeling like this and whatnot. And I think, of course, once you start talking to people and being more open about situations, you can realize that you're actually not alone, and that there's actually quite a few people out there who feel that way. And that's why I really want to share how I'm feeling and share my experience, because this is not easy. And I think, of course, everyone comes in on different playing fields. Let's talk about academics. So, like I said, my mental health and adjusting to medical school has been the hardest thing about this first semester for me. So even though I've gone through 1 full semester of medical school, and in that semester I believe we completed 4 blocks, I still have not perfected my studying methods. Upon coming into medical school, I received so many suggestions of what I should do, what I shouldn't do, how to study, how not to study, and a lot of upperclassmen said the same thing. They said, you'll figure it out. And for me personally, that gave me so much anxiety, you know, just feeling like I'll figure it out. I'm like, when am I going to figure it out? And to be honest, I feel like that's the only way that you can really do that. You know, get to where you want to be academically, is to figure it out. And I feel like I have done a lot of trial and error, and that's the only way to figure it out. And that kind of sucks, you know. But I will say this also, that I've received, like I said, I've got a lot of suggestions, some of which were awesome suggestions and some of which just didn't work for me. It's getting better as time progresses. I feel like everyone who has gone through this process has had to do the same thing. You just have to find what works for you. And I'm closer now than I was in my first block to actually finding out what works for me. But I'm still a work in progress academically. And I also have to say this, that our upperclassmen are fabulous. They have been a whirlwind of information and knowledge and just assistance and help. And I appreciate every upperclassman who has reached out to me and who has helped me and has just made this process this much easier, you know? So yeah, I'm still working on it academically. So of course, I know this sounds ultra cliche, but it is very true. The analogy, I'm not even gonna say it, but you know what I'm talking about, is 1000% true. The thing that makes medical school hard, in my opinion, academically, is the sheer amount of content. Yeah, it's even compared to when I was in grad school, we did not have nearly this much, at least in my program, I did not have nearly this much content that I had to undergo. And not only that, what I found really difficult for me is I would learn something and then I wouldn't revisit that thing, and then come next week I'd forget. So revisiting information, all of that stuff has been very difficult. So this next little portion that I want to talk about is something that is so near and dear to my heart and something that I really want to stress. And that is age. I am an older medical student. I actually started first year at 28 years old. I'm currently 29. And I am a first year medical student. And I think, you know, people tend to think I am exceptionally young because I don't think I exactly look my age. Most of the people that I've met in my class are in their early 20s. And I thought that this was going to be a very, very big deal. So, to be honest, I thought me being an older student, it was something that upon starting school I was very concerned about. Simply because I felt like being an older student, that made me really insecure. It made me uncomfortable and feel as though I was different from my peers. One thing that I will say is people have said to me prior to me starting medical school, people have expressed to me like, oh, I want to go to med school, but I'm too old. And I look at them and I often ask them, how old are you? And they'll say, oh, I'm 23, or I'm 25, or I'm 27. And I am 29 years old. I started medical school at 28 years old, and currently I am, like I said, 29. So I think this whole issue of being too old for medical school is something that is 1,000,000,000% untrue. To be 100% honest with you, what I have learned is this. If you let your age be a defining factor, it will be. If you do not let your age be a defining factor, it won't be. I feel like the excuse of I'm too old for medical school is exactly that. It is an excuse. It is something that isn't true. I don't think there's any age limit for when one can go to medical school. I don't think there's any age limit for when you have to start medical school. One thing that I was very adamant about before starting medical school and before applying to medical school was I was only going to apply when I felt ready. And when I had first graduated college, I did not feel ready. And even as I attempted to take the MCAT, I did not feel ready. I decided that I was going to do this when I was going to do this. And I am very thankful that I did that. I do not think that this process would have gone well if I would have started medical school when someone told me to, or much earlier or sooner. I think the stage that I'm in right now is the stage in which I'm supposed to be a medical student. I am happy that I decided to wait to apply to medical school, because this is not a small feat. It is not something that is simplistic. You have to, I think the stage that I'm in right now, like I said, is the stage that I'm supposed to be in. So to my older students out there who are like, oh, I want to be a medical student, but I feel like I'm too old, blah, blah, blah. Please do not let your age hinder you at all. If it is something that you truly want to do, pursue it and just get it done. Because, I mean, I'm going to be 30 anyways. Might as well be 32 and a doctor. You know what I'm saying? Whether it's, pursuing, medical school, nursing school, whatever, any kind of professional school, or any career period, don't let your age be your defining factor. And that is something that I really learned. Yeah, it's nothing. Don't let age be anything. So I also feel like in medical school it can go both ways, because I feel like even if you're super young and if you feel like you're ready and you feel like, oh, I might be too young to apply to medical school, if you have all the criteria that you need, apply. Because I feel like nowadays the cohorts of classes are getting older. And I feel like that should not don't let that hinder you. If you feel like it's time for you to apply and you have everything that you need to apply and you feel ready, do it. Don't let age, whether you're too old, too young, too whatever, don't let it be a defining factor. I feel like what's more of a defining factor than age is actually experience. So what I think is really interesting about medical school is that everyone who comes in comes from a completely different background. We're all starting at different levels of the playing field. And that more so to me is, I guess, a little bit more important than age. Do not, think that just because someone is the ripe young age of 21 that they have no experience. You don't know someone's life or their situation. And do not think just because someone is 32 that they have all the experience in the world. They could have been out of school for some years. And I mean, we all just come in on a different playing field. And that is more so where I had to learn that it is that whole issue of staying in your own lane is essential. So in general, when it comes to age, I think do not let that be a hindering factor, and don't judge people based off of their age. I feel like if you feel like this is a career for you and you are an older student just like me, apply when you're ready. Do everything when you're ready. And everything, in my opinion, happens for a reason. And it's going to happen when it's meant to happen. So, like I said, this has been a really difficult semester for me. And I have needed help to get through this semester. And by far, what has helped me get through this semester is my support system. One of the reasons that I wanted to stay in state for medical school, was simply because I knew I wanted to be around my support system. I did not want to have to leave home if I didn't have to. And I am very happy that I made the decision to stay around my support system, which, has a lot of good, but it does also have some bad to actually being home, and staying around your core. By far, my support system is what got me through medical school. I feel like if I would have left, this process would have been 1,000 times more difficult for me. And having my support system near me, who I could touch them, I could hold them, I could feel them, that has helped tremendously. Oh my God, they have made this process that has been so hard, like, so much more palatable. They have really helped me tremendously. I feel like, to be 100% honest with you, going through this semester of medical school has really taught me who is really there for me and who is in my corner. Whenever I needed any assistance, help, guidance, or just support and a hug, my support system has shown up and showed out, really. Whether it be needing someone to tag along to events with me or whatever the case has been, they've been there for me. And I feel like it is so essential for everyone to have a support system. Whether your support system, you know, is really heavily in school or out of school, you know, you have to have that support. I feel like they keep me grounded. They help me. They remind me of why I'm going through what I'm going through, because this is not easy, and I feel like it is essential to have support. As I mentioned, my significant other has been fabulous. I've been with my boyfriend now for 9 years, and he is not in medical school. He is not in the medical field, not even interested in medicine, and he has been amazing. Yeah, he has made this process so much better. It is very nice to be with someone who has been super supportive. I will say that being in a relationship in medical school is not easy. For me, it has not been easy whatsoever. It has been hard. I think what has really helped us is compromise and really talking. I feel like now we don't have as much time to talk as frequently as we have in the past, but when we talk, I feel like we're very meaningful with our words, and I'm not one who honestly likes to communicate too much, like my feelings and my emotions. And so I have had to learn that it is essential to do that. And in opening up myself more, I have learned that my significant other is just so supportive. I think it is just so important to have really honest, open lines of communication, and that has helped us profusely. But I hope to talk about that a little bit more in the future. Also, I want to talk more about what it's like to be in a relationship in medical school. But long story short, my support system is what has gotten me through this, and I would highly suggest anyone out there, make time to connect to your support system. If you need help, make sure you have somebody who you can call at all times, you know. Reach out, because this is not a process that can be done, in my opinion, by oneself, you know. So my support system have literally been the ones who have gotten me through this. Another thing that has really helped me to deal with this semester is my why. I personally had many times during the semester where I would be like, oh my God, what the heck am I doing? Why the heck am I doing this? Pretty much all of the people that I know and I'm close to are not pursuing medicine as a career. And so one of the things that I did find a little bit difficult as an older student, most of my friends are pretty set in their careers right now. Like I said, I'm 29. Most of my friends are around my age, in their late 20s, and they are like really, you know, planting roots, saving money, saving for retirement now, and I'm not. And that has been something that is difficult, you know. And so I have to really honestly just keep my eyes on my own, you know, situation. And it has been difficult, you know, still being a student while my peers and my close friends are, you know, making strides. And what I had to realize again is comparison is yet the thief of joy. So I can't compare my life to them, and we each chose different paths. And like I said, my friends are so supportive. They have been incredible this semester. There are positives and negatives to everyone's situation, and the fact of the matter is that in my situation, I'm not able to make money right now, or, you know, but I'm still working towards that career that I've always dreamt of having. One of the things that I did have to constantly remind myself during this semester is my why. So oftentimes I would be sitting around and I'd be studying and I'd be like, oh my God, oh, it's beautiful outside, I'd love to be outside, or oh my God, you know, like, why am I doing this? And during times like that, when I would be like, why am I doing this? Oh my God, why? I would literally have to leave or stop doing whatever I'm doing and remind myself of my why. And for me, whenever I want to revisit my why, I literally do two things. I'm either driving down the street, and most of the time when I'm driving, I'm like in a hurry and I'm trying to hurry up and get to school or do this or do that, and I'm not paying attention to my surroundings. However, when I have those instances of, oh my God, why am I doing this? I slow down and I literally look outside the window. And I am reminded of why I am doing this. My why is so tied to my location. I have been without health insurance. I grew up in a single parent household. It was just me and my mom, and we had financial struggle after struggle after struggle after struggle. And I know what it's like to be without, you know, and to see people on the streets who are struggling or who are in, you know, poor health, or, you know, in particular, I kind of did mention this before, but I want to be a doctor who is treating those in the inner city, because I feel like that's the population that I come from, and I know what it's like. And so when I remind myself of that, whether it be driving down the street, or another thing that I do is because of the location of our school, we're right next to the hospital. So I do often go to the hospital, whether it be to get something to eat or for research. And whenever I go to the hospital, I literally just make sure that I calm down, I slow down, and I take in the sights. Because seeing those in the hospital, they remind me of why I'm doing all this, you know, to one day hopefully provide them with the care that I think everyone deserves. So yeah, I feel like at times when it gets to be really tough and you don't, you know, you're like, oh my God, why am I doing this? I think it is so essential to revisit that why. Whether it be that you need to write down your why, or you need to, you know, even if you write it down and frame it and put it on your wall so that you can look at it, you know, your reasoning of why you're doing this. Because I had to remind myself countless amount of times, and I feel like that's going to be the case as I continue throughout school. So yeah, I think it is so essential to solidly know your why. Know that why. Know why you're doing this. Know why you're going through this painful process. And I feel like that's excellent motivation to keep going. So one other thing that I have to say that has been incredible being a first year medical student is the amount of opportunities that I am allotted. I feel like the opportunities that I get as a medical student now are crazy. So for me personally, as a pre-med, it was hard for me to find someone to shadow, and it was also very hard for me to find physicians to act as mentors for me. In particular, I did not have a very large social network of physicians. I don't come from physicians. I just didn't know a lot of physicians. And so now that I'm a medical student, I will definitely say the opportunities that I am able to have, or the opportunities that are presented to me, are crazy. So far, I haven't done a lot of things because I've been trying to focus more so on my academics. But the thing that I love so much about our school is just the things that we are able to do. Whether it be, I mean, there's so many clinics, there's so many like student ran clinics at school. There's tons of opportunities. If you want to get into research, it's exceptionally easy, I think, as a medical student to get into research at our university. If you want to volunteer and you want to like work on your, you know, actual clinical skills, you can do that super easy. There's just so many amazing things that you can do at our school, and that is what I really think is just so special about being a medical student. And that, in essence, in my opinion, it just makes being a medical student like 1,000 times better. You know, because sometimes when you're having those feelings of, oh my God, can I do this, and then like you actually, you know, go out and volunteer at a clinic, or you go, you know, interact with the community, and then you're using those skills that you're actually using, you're like, oh my God, I actually do know something, you know, this is so worthwhile. And to the pre-meds out there who are like, oh my God, I can't wait to be a medical student, please let this be one of the factors that really motivates you to continue through your pre-med journey. As a medical student, the opportunities that you get are crazy. And I've done so many things that I just can't believe I've done. Like, that's one thing that I will say. This year I've done more things in this short period of time than, like, I've done amazing things in such a short period of time. I kind of mentioned this before in other videos that I never did research as a pre-med. And that was something that I always regretted. Right now, as a medical student, I am doing research, and I absolutely love research. I didn't know I liked research as much as I actually do. I'm doing more clinical research, and I really am enjoying it. I think that school is essential, of course, but doing something that you're actually passionate about and that you really love, it just makes school that much better. You know, it gives you a reason to continue. It makes things interesting. And as a medical student now, I can't even tell you. I mean, that is the most amazing thing about medical school, in my opinion. I think the only things that really limit you at our school in regards to extracurriculars or like opportunities is really yourself and time. That's it. Okay. But yeah, long story short, medical school, or my first semester of medical school, has been filled with lots of hardships. And however, there's been some really incredible times also, and there's been some really amazing opportunities. The things that I've been able to do, you know, that has truly been, it's been a blessing, honestly. I don't know how else to describe it. I think medical school is exceptionally difficult, but the opportunities, the things that you're able to do, I mean, just in regards to something as, it's not really simple, but like anatomy. Whenever I go to anatomy, I actually leave kind of floored at the sense that someone donated their body so that I could learn. In my opinion, to be honest, I see anatomy and all the other things that I'm doing as kind of surreal processes, things that it's just surreal to think that I'm doing these things, and to also realize that all the things that I'm doing, they're actually helping me to actually become a doctor. That's crazy. It's crazy to believe. And while I've said so many times that medical school is hard, I want to leave with these words that I find that are encouraging to me. And it is the simple fact that, yes, imposter syndrome is real, and yes, this is tough, and yes, you're keeping up with the Joneses, and yes, there are, you know, all kind of crazy things that go on in this whole process. But I will tell you something. There is no feeling like the feeling of taking an exam and being like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, just freaking out before your exam, taking that exam, and then getting it back and being like, oh, I did okay. Or, you know, like, oh, I didn't fail, you know? And it's like, you can do this. You know, I think that's the craziest thing that has been really hard for me to kind of grasp, honestly, is going through this whole process and doing things like taking exams and being tested and then being like, oh my god, I actually know this. Like, I can do this. And for me, I have to constantly work on my confidence and all of these other attributes, but I am realizing with each and every day, the more time and effort I put into things, that I can actually do this. And I say this, and I don't say this to be like, to sound any way in particular, but I believe it to be true, is if I can do this, trust me, anybody else can do this too. So on that note, so before I get all emotional and whatnot, because like I said, this has been a very, very difficult time, but it has been very rewarding also. So yes, I just want to say thank you so much for watching my video, and like I said, I want to keep this super authentic, super real, and talk about my journey more. And so more videos are to come in 2020 as I finish my first year of medical school. In 3 months I will be done with year 1. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.